Hello, hello. Good morning. My co-host Colin is, due to a mistake of mine, probably in the other stream, so he will be joining us in a second. Here we are. Morning, Colin.
I can't hear you. That's weird. Hello? I can't hear you, Walter.
You can't hear me at all?
Strange.
Because
Hello?
I hear me on the stream. I hear
Are
you.
you mute?
Hello. Everything is under control.
Strange. Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me?
I'll try again.
I can hear you. All good. Okay, so welcome. Sorry for the chaos. I'll just get started with the first topic. One of the first things we wanted to talk about was open sourcing of Grok. 1 second.
Oh, hi.
Can you hear me now?
This is super strange. Can't hear you.
It is super strange.
Technology.
Anyway, this week we have a couple of different topics. One of them is the open sourcing of Grok. So Twitter open sourced, or Musk or XAI, or I don't even know exactly, open sourced Grok, which is quite interesting. Because especially when you think about open source and AI, this is a bit of a hot topic. I wrote about this before on LinkedIn. One of the challenges with open sourcing in the AI world is that. Can you hear me now, Colin? Yes?
Yes, I can hear you.
I started talking to myself about open source Grok, and the first thing to me is that calling it open source is a bit tricky if you're not actually open source, aka open sourcing your training data, open sourcing the weights. I think they were not yet there. And accepting contributions, then your source available, which is still great, but it's a far cry from actual open source.
Yeah, so I think this is the interesting thing about AI in general is that none of this is actually open source if you think about it. Even when we look at Llama, which we have looked at quite closely here at Helixiora, it's not actually open source. It is open to us to use right up until a certain limit. So I wouldn't consider any of the AI that we are familiar with actually open source. There definitely are open source AI models, but the ones that we are most familiar with are definitely not.
Yeah. Did you look at the code by any chance?
Well, I did take a gander at it. I didn't actually look at I didn't check out the entire repository. I think it's several hundred. It's quite big.
I thought one of the biggest things that I really like is the little middle finger that they did by putting it in the OpenAI organization.
Yeah.
Not as an OpenAI the company, but as an actually OpenAI. So,
Yeah, they're a bit weird. I think it's mostly because Elon likes to be Elon.
bitch on people. Let me see if I can create a banner. then we can put it.
Yeah, I didn't actually pull down the entire magnet link for what it's worth. It's just not worth it. Not like you and I can run inference with it anyway.
Yeah. So I thought this was funny. It looks cool. But yeah, if you look at the repository, it is quite interesting. But there are in the contributor list, it's 2 people that have contributed, and
Yeah,
commit.
well, actually, you can actually look at the discussion list on Hugging Face, right? So this is a Hugging Face discussion list. So you'll actually notice that there people will tell you what the hardware requirements are. And here's a funny one. For example, basically run 8A100s, and it took up 75% of all the VRAM. So it's not necessarily the most optimized.
Yeah.
And possibly not something that you and, like I said, it's not something you and I are going to run anytime soon. I think we are considered to be GPU poor.
Well, that said, I do think there's a good value in it, because I think that and the ranking algorithm being at least available removes that whole debate where people were saying, "Oh, you're doing all this custom stuff that we have no insight into." So that's different now. You can just see what code the AI is based on. That
Yeah,
it's not 100%
but
that.
I think the biggest thing to remember is Grok is not really very useful.
Yeah, I haven't
So,
used it because I don't pay for X, to be honest.
so to be very clear, you have to pay extra to get access to Grok, and Grok is, I think, not available in the EU anyway. And Grok has 2 modes, right? A fun mode and a regular mode. So let's just open up a Grok window, and let's take a Perplexity AI and the Chat GPT. Do you have a pressing question you can ask? And I will take
Ooh,
a quick jump.
something recent.
Ooh, what happened there? You went full screen.
One of the things you can ask is something about LangChain, because I've been playing with LangChain this week, and one
All
of the
right,
fun
give,
things.
give, give me a question about LangChain. So to be clear, I played for Perplexity as well.
Yeah, let's let it write some code. Give an example of how to store a document from Google Drive into Pinecone using LangChain.
Give an example of how to store a document from Google Drive into Pinecone using LangChain. Okay, this is, I think Grok's going to disappoint. I'm setting you up already.
Yeah, because it doesn't really do code, right? It is more
yeah.
Twitter
So
stuff.
now we do Perplexity, and then we also do GPT-4.
Are you sharing your screen, by the way? Because I don't see it.
Oh yes, of course. I should be sharing my screen. That extra magic. Hang on, let me get my bad. Let's go there. StreamYard thing is funny. Let's go to Stream. This is present. Okay, there we go. Share screen. All right. So I think you can just see my entire screen, which is, oops. So I've actually had to use Firefox for this to work. And it's not working. Entire screen. It just says the browser can't access your screen, which is not useful. And Chrome wasn't actually giving me the ability to speak to you or listen to you anyway. Let's try Chrome again. Chrome is not crappy. Let's see. Let me just get out of the Firefox one, see if it makes it.
Friends.
Walter, say something.
Yeah, you removed yourself from the screen from the stage.
I can't hear you. This is just shocking. This is shock and awe. This is a joke. Okay. The fact that I can't hear you is actually a joke. Yeah, and you should be on my AirPods, the speaker. It's crazy. So we'll go back to Firefox. Of all things I haven't used in a long time. And
Yeah.
see if it works again.
I'm using it on
Sorry
Chrome,
for the technical difficulties. This is why we should be using Zoom.
Like we wouldn't have any trouble there.
Unable to present. That's okay. But
No.
you know what? Let me give you some answers since everyone can see the chat, right?
Yep.
All right. So in regular mode, actually, wow, Grok surprises. Honestly, Grok surprises. It actually gave me sample code, and it said, "This is what Grok said," which basically is not far from the answer. In fact,
If you do it, you should post it in the comments section so that other people can also see it. Wait.
Oh yes, okay. Now it wants me to connect to YouTube. Oh dear. This is more complex than you think.
I posted it in the comments.
All right. And then I need to, because as I said, Firefox is not really the browser of choice. So let's try this again. Since I got to log in. Yes, it's me. Okay. Choose your account.
So, but Grok gives you an answer, but it doesn't give you the actual code.
It actually does. So let's go for some actual code. So here's some actual code from Grok. All right. So here's some actual code from Grok, which may or may not be useful. It doesn't. Yeah, it splits it up in Pinecone. So there's actual code.
That's fine.
Okay, so let's try. I feel like this is a Mac OS system preferences thing. So sharing your screen should be easy. Display.
Yeah, the code isn't actually correct. This is the fun part because LangChain is moving so fast, and we're in early stages. The information out there, besides the actual documentation from the LangChain guys, is all over the place because it's moved so much in the last months. It's been around for I don't know a year or more, but it's moved so much recently that it isn't actually very good to do with a trained AI algorithm because that uses older data that's not necessarily only from the documentation. And now, if it does word prediction or token prediction, then it sees so many different options out there that it just chooses one of them, which isn't necessarily the correct one.
All right, let's see if this magic works. Okay.
So at the bottom of your code,
do you see my screen now?
Yes.
Can you add? Okay, so I've got two connections now. One is Chrome, one which doesn't let me hear you, and one is Firefox, which lets me, Okay, so here's Grok, actually giving me a surprisingly good answer, but as you said, not quite the code you need.
Yeah, so there, further down, it uses, it doesn't actually use LangChain, so that vector to be equals pinecone.from documents.
Yep.
Yeah, that should actually be done using LangChain, using Pinecone.
Yep.
Oh, actually, maybe it is correct. Yeah, because it's weird.
Yeah, I think it might actually be. So ChatGPT tells me this: set
Yeah,
up an installation, auth
yeah,
with Google Drive, read from Google Drive, make the connection to Pinecone. So we've got the init. So so somewhat similar, but not really.
yeah.
Process and store documents in Pinecone.
Nice.
So a bit more. So just give me the code. All right, let's see. And here's Perplexity, which is something that I've recently been very interested in. Uh, it's well worth the $20, I think. So here it actually does tell you to actually import stuff from LangChain. So I feel like this is the more accurate answer for what it's worth.
Yeah, no, this is if you're using Google Colab. So this is interesting. This assumes that we're using this in a Colab instance.
Yeah.
You see, it says
So
drive.mount. That only works if you're already
yeah,
inside the Colab.
inside Colab. Yep.
So it isn't necessarily incorrect. It's just it will only
It's just a
work if
different.
you're
Yeah.
inside Colab. Which, given the
I
question, isn't a bad suggestion. Just
let's see what it says. So here we've got again. So here's a lot more code. So
yeah,
here, if you notice, it's not really no usage of LangChain per se.
yeah.
So yeah, just to be clear to everybody, we're not obviously trying this. So again, this
No,
one does have from LangChain document coders. So maybe Grok is clearly not as bad as at this stage. And then here we've got the pip install LangChain OpenAI. We're still back to using LangChain, and you can see now it's actually out. It's got creds. So
yeah,
I feel again Perplexity is doing a fairly good job here. And might I add that the Perplexity that I'm using for this is actually using just generic Perplexity. I'm not using what everyone is talking about now, which is if I switch Perplexity the to
Claude
Claude
3.
3. So actually I can switch the model to Claude 3 if I Opus if I want to as well. So today I've realized that if you want to save money, Claude 3 Opus by itself is $20. Perplexity Pro is $20, but you can get a discount, so it's a bit cheaper. So if you pay by the year,
Yeah,
it turns out that it's potentially that this is the best option because it gives you even GPT-4 Turbo, which
interesting.
which means if you just use Perplexity, you can actually stop paying for everything else.
Nice.
So I don't. So I have no clue if you guys are interested in trying something cheaper, but ChatGPT is again month to month, right?
Yeah,
So it's possible that you may want to just switch. Okay, this one looks a bit more accurate. Again, can't ensure you that it works just by looking
no,
at it,
no,
but
but yeah, it's interesting to compare actual examples. So I like that.
yeah. So like I said, looks a bit more accurate. So well worth taking a look at.
Nice.
And of course, maybe we don't want all that. It's problem. Okay, so I think this is actually I'm actually kind of bullish on Perplexity at this stage. Not as much about Grok. So if anyone has any like pressing questions that they'd like to get answered, I'm also happy to give it a go. But
Can you
yeah.
ask it something political? That should be fun. Who's going to be the next president of the U.S. or something?
Oh yeah.
Tricky.
Okay. Let's try a new chat for that. Okay. Uh, let's go back to preview. Oh, wait, go. Let's make a new chat. Let's ask it something political. Okay. Let's make a new thread. Who is going to be the next president? To make it simple. And we asked ChatGPT something similar to.
And this is probably where it's going to be vastly different.
So we've got Joe Biden, incumbent. This is not true, right? He's already said he's running for a second term.
Oh yeah, this is all
And
outdated too, because there are only two
and
left.
yeah, and Trump basically announced his candidacy. Nikki Haley is already out. So this data is not necessarily new. Let's go to ChatGPT. Not determined. It's actually a very this is true. You got Joe Biden and Trump, but again, it says presumptive Democratic and Republican nominees. But so the data is coming from March 12th, which is not far from today.
No, but I think this is
And
the live. Like it actually searched for that live instead of.
yeah, it definitely did. So Ballotpedia.
Nice.
All right. So let's go here. Based on the search results, main candidates are Joe Biden, Donald Trump. It does mention other candidates. This is true. Robert F. Kennedy is still thinking he can run independently. Not sure about these other folk. But yeah. So maybe we can ask, if you had to pick a winner, pick one based on all that data you have. All right. Let's ask Brock that. Whoa. Okay, so Grok's going for Donald Trump. And let's see what ChatGPT does. ChatGPT goes for a very safe and boring answer. Come on. So ChatGPT is clearly, we forgot to check Gemini. I'm so sorry, guys. Yeah. So Grok gave us maybe the best answer so far.
Yeah,
And,
unfortunately.
Yeah, strangely, but I'm going to ask Perplexity this too. Let's see what Perplexity says and what Gemini says. Oh, look at that.
Oh my
And I'm a
god.
Gemini Advanced.
Google has really kicked the bucket on this one, huh?
So we've got AI Studio as well, with even better so-called prompting. I'm actually very disappointed to see this, but Google really has said they're done. So we're on 1.5 Pro. Why can't I copy and paste again? Type something, it says. Okay. And let's see, it's picking up model. So Google has really, muted itself. Yeah, so yeah, lots of neutering. So maybe from a free speech absolutist standpoint, Grok really is a winner. I don't know. Yeah, okay, so Google has really muted itself. So here's Perplexity. Too early to definitely predict the outcome. It's a lot longer. It says Joe Biden is a nominee, etc. Low approval ratings and concerns about his age. And then you got Trump, strong support, facing numerous legal challenges.
When you read this, huh? I just read the end of the Roman Empire. Is that weird? This is exactly what happened to the Roman Empire. Oh, we don't trust all of this stuff anymore, so we're just gonna go and do something else. Oh fuck! Now everything is.
Yeah. So I have to say, yeah, not impressed. Google is really unfortunate. I think they become so afraid of being bashed on the internet that they've actually just given us trash.
And funny enough, this is a self-fulfilling prophecy because now everything they do gets them shit. So I find that
Yeah,
funny.
and this is truly trash. Like I'm actually going to like what they're so excited to announce lately, even via 1.5 Pro, and we've got Gemini Advanced. So ChatGPT obviously neutering itself as you'd expect, but again, Grok is surprising. Current events, Grok might be the winner,
Yeah.
and Perplexity, I think, still very bullish on Perplexity. It looks very interesting.
Nice, nice. We had a couple of more topics. You
Yeah. Okay.
posted an article about Redis going dual license with source available. I think it's the latest
Yeah.
in a long string, but I didn't know Redis was even still a thing.
Oh, dude. Redis is very much still a thing. Redis is you can get Redis on AWS, can't you? So
Yeah, you
you've
can,
got
but then that
and
has
you've
nothing
got
to do with open source.
and you can also get it on Google Cloud. So Redis is definitely it's called memory store. It's definitely not unheard
Yeah,
of. Just because the bloke has been kicked out of his company does not mean anything. So it's very interesting that Redis has taken the source available license. It's their own and server-side public license, which is something MongoDB tried to implement. Basically, they have implemented it SSPL, and they tried to make it an open source license, but that didn't work out. And well, for everybody, the link is of course here. Oh, comment has failed to post to. That's weird. It doesn't like me posting links. Or...
I can post them. If you put it in the private chat, I'll post it.
Yes, please. I think it has something to do with.
Yeah, probably the
This,
authorizations are done from my account because I set up the stream or something.
yeah. So basically, Redis has long thought that they've liked the BSD, but they can't really manage it. And Redis is definitely impacting lots of people if you don't have a license, commercial licensing terms. And it's very much like MongoDB. This is basically what Redis is doing to say, we don't like you cloud providers too much, so pay up. If
Yeah,
you're
I mean,
hosting it internally for an org, it's okay. But if you're a cloud service, it's not okay.
the reason I said I didn't know Redis was still a thing is that on AWS, for instance, I think 90% of the people just use Elasticache because it's a managed service. You don't have to worry about it, and
Yep.
that is exactly why they're doing it. Why Redis is taking this move, because that makes it more difficult. But I think that that isn't necessarily going to turn out well for them.
Yeah, I don't think so. But Redis has raised a lot of money, right? So I think the biggest thing to remember is if we head on to Redis Labs is the funder of most of this stuff, and if we look very carefully, they've taken something like 10 funding rounds,
Oh shit! Yeah.
and let me log on to Crunchbase. This magic. And they have actually raised $356 million.
Jesus.
That is quite a lot of money. And for reference, they started raising money possibly long before 2011. So and they've also gone to secondary markets in 2021. So if we follow the general 10-year lifespan of a VC fund that needs to return the money, they're well overdue.
Yeah.
So
It's
they've
sad,
taken
right?
a
Because
lot of funding.
Redis isn't that complicated of software. It's just why do you need $350 million to create this software?
Yeah, I actually do wonder why you need so much money. But
Yeah, it's the cost of
they
sales. Huh?
probably
They pour all of that into
yeah,
sales staff to sell licenses to make the money back, to get the money back to investors, and then that's a
yeah,
chasing your own tail type of thing.
yeah. So it's really unfortunate, I would say. But this is probably something they have no choice but to do. Otherwise, they will not be able to, somehow either go public or sell the company.
Yeah.
And I
Interesting.
think that's really the most unfortunate thing for it is good technology, even though the main founder is no longer there. So I think Salvatore Sanfilippo was unceremoniously sort of removed from the project
Put to the side, yeah.
quite some time ago. Yeah, and let's not forget that he was actually, was being funded by VMware at one stage by Pivotal, etc. And this is not the first time Redis has announced to switch to proprietary license for what it's worth, right? They did it before as well. They
Oh,
switched
really?
it in 2018. Yeah. This is not the first time.
Interesting.
So now they've got the
Um,
Redis source available license and SSPL. So it's this new thing called the Redis source available license that they claim to have last updated, in December 2023, but literally no one has read this license until today. So this is
Interesting.
the license this is the license that is actually new.
So now, if there's SSPL and source available, there's no more open source.
Yeah, frankly, it doesn't really tell me that there is open source any longer. But they still claim to believe in open source. So they actually in the FAQ say, do they still believe in open source? And they say, yeah, we acknowledge that this change means Redis is no longer open source under the OSI definition, but we give away more technology than we monetize, and it's just that they feel that this is the evolution of many open source projects, changing the licenses and the IP, and they still, like the Redis, they still like open source. They have GitHub still, but I wouldn't say that they really are very open source any
So
longer.
I'm
Just
looking on
a bit of
Crunchbase, and there's a list. It's in the lists featuring this company, and one of the lists it's in is San Francisco Bay Area late stage companies with less than 500 million in revenue.
whoa, where did you get that list? That must be an interesting list.
Number of organizations 764.
Yeah, so they've raised a lot of money, but okay, you've got a very interesting list there. So you raise a lot of money, but then you don't have a lot to show for it,
It's
which
painful.
is unfortunate. It is. It's trending. Wow. So here's clearly a long list of companies that clearly could use better data products potentially. They have money, but not enough revenue.
Yeah.
We should send Candice down their way.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Let's see. The next thing we wanted to talk about was an article on Medium. Postgres is eating the database world.
Yeah, Postgres is eating the database world,
I find this
and I think
interesting.
it's kind of, I think it's kind of true actually.
What?
So you should probably post a link for everybody to take a quick gander. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's actually very, very true.
So the question is not whether or not this is true. The question is how did that come to be? Because that
Yeah,
didn't used to be the case.
yeah. So the way I see it is, I think people are not super happy with the way MySQL has worked, right? So MySQL, MariaDB, a bit of an issue there. And then let's not forget that there is zero AI inside of open source MySQL. Today you can get AI for MySQL via Oracle Cloud, which is where lots of things are moving towards. A lot of the development is there. And I think Google has also recently announced AI functionality in their MySQL cloud. But this is really just them writing vector database storage engines, from what I gather. PlanetScale has also announced this, but we discussed PlanetScale last week, and they had a reduction in force. And I'm going to guess that after the RIF, we haven't heard much about the vector DB that they're going to do. But it is prudent, I think, today that more and more people end up building on Postgres because Postgres is BSD license. It's never going to change, and it is the smart bet, right? Today, if you're going to go there, and it's actually got a lovely diagram. You put diagrams in the chat. I don't know, but
No.
you've got time series with time scale also took funding. You've got lots of foreign data wrappers. It's got graph, search, geospatial, OLAP, AI vector, and a lot of derived databases, right? Like Ferret and FerretDB, for example, is very interesting because it's a derived Postgres database that speaks the MongoDB protocol.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, right? Because I think that at least in the open source space, the incumbent was, or incumbent, the leader was MySQL for a very long time, and I think MySQL screwed itself by having all these non-technical challenges in the MySQL ecosystem. And I think this is it's very unfortunate that it's not the technology that lost out, because and I think maybe I don't know if we can find data on this. Would be nice for next week, but if you look at the amount of sites running MySQL versus Postgres, probably MySQL is still vastly outnumbering Postgres, considering all the WordPress
I
and
would say that is
Drupal.
true today, but for all the new stuff, Postgres is definitely very important, which is also why, from a Helixiora standpoint, I've been saying we should be very, very focused on Postgres because it is nascent technology. It's been around for a long time, but in terms of support organizations offering you high quality services, it is still nowhere near what you can get with the MySQL world yet. Yes, there are companies, yes, there are commercial solutions, but no one's really out there saying, we are the Postgres experts, and there are plenty, but they all tend to be very small orgs. And
Yeah.
maybe it's much harder when you have all these little extra features inside Postgres derived stuff. But at the same time, Superbase, for example, is very popular technology built, literally down south from where I am in Singapore mostly. And what's to say that they don't become another planet scale at some stage, for example. So it's all about how well they start managing their money. And planet scale gave everyone something like 1 month's notice, but we've seen cloud providers back in the day, like Zround, for example, give people 2 weeks notice. They said, we're literally going out of business. Here's 2 weeks notice. Which is good, right? It's not planet scale. Planet scale's problem. Planet scale is killing the free tier, but
It's even worse.
no, I think it's actually okay if you're killing the free tier. At least you're focusing on the people that make money. But I think a lot of interesting stuff inside of Postgres, right? You have the ability to build on top of open source, and I think that's what makes it a winner, right? Building on top of open source is the winner. Is the win here?
It's funny because I think that MariaDB came about because of a fear that having MySQL be owned by Oracle was a challenge. And I think this is interesting how that has played out. And you wonder if trying to have, I mean, I don't know anything about the situation. Probably you do know more about this than you can say. But from an outside perspective, I'm like, I wish they did it like, I don't know if you remember this, but Node.js had a spat like that where they disagreed about the direction of the project, forked, and then a couple months later said, okay, you know what, maybe
back again.
shouldn't be doing this shit, and merged back, and everybody got along. And here we are 10, 20 years later, and Node is still going strong under a single name.
Yeah, so that was the Node.js IOJS fork, and then everyone came back together, and I think it was actually a nigh impossible task, right? Because MySQL's owner is Oracle, and MariaDB back then was actually very much self-funded, so it was decent. But the moment SkySQL came into play, it ensured that there was already funding. So with funding, you must have some exits.
Yeah.
And so even then, I think it wasn't a big deal. But the moment MariaDB itself became part of SkySQL via merger, that little acquisition, I think, caused the problem where you would need an exit, right? Or an IPO or something. And yeah, today, of course, we can see the MariaDB stock price is quite dismal. It's, I think, 25 cents now. But maybe after hours, it's at 28 cents. But it's just not great.
And how about
and I think
how about Percona
How about
server?
what?
Is that still being developed?
Percona server is definitely still being developed, but I think Percona has also played a huge role in being, part of the problem to some extent. And part of the problem is, if you follow the fact that Percona doesn't pay for lots of stuff, but they enhance stuff. I think that's obviously been the biggest beef with dealing with Percona for many companies. It's so. So I guess that's a bit unfortunate. Perona doesn't do anything poorly in that sense. They're doing what's right for their business and for their customers. But I guess it doesn't help the vendors. So you see that as a problem, very much like what many vendors react to with regards to Amazon, right, or any other cloud provider. They always do not like the cloud providers too much.
It's interesting because now I just looked at it. Percona now talks about Percona software for MySQL, and not necessarily. I think in the past it was Percona server, but that's now one of the parts of the whole ecosystem they're trying to make.
It's really most interesting that you mentioned MariaDB lately, because just today they filed that the CEO, Paul O'Brien, will be exiting at the end of May. They are not renewing his agreement.
Oh yeah.
So there is actually more pain coming up. So there is a chief restructuring officer who is coming in as of a few days ago, and that's
never a good sign, when you have a chief restructuring officer.
And by the way, the chief restructuring officer is being paid $1,095 per hour for his restructuring services. That is an insane amount of money.
Oh, nice.
So I pasted the links in the private chat since I can't paste them, but in case anybody's bothered and wants to read up more on restructuring officers and their compensation, that might amuse you a little.
Let me post them here also.
So as you can see, the date filed is literally a few hours ago.
Nice. Yeah, I keep track of the stock price, and it goes up and down by 10% overnight for probably volume reasons rather than any actual.
There's actually so little volume; it's not even funny, right? So very little amounts of volume can make the stock price jump or drop. It's very much like crypto, but on the Nasdaq. I had to insert that in just for amusement's sake.
Yeah, so maybe I can talk a little bit about what I've been up to this week, since last week that was a question. I have been, among many other things, been playing around with LangChain and Pinecone and OpenAI to just try to get a chain of stuff going that downloads a private document from my Google Drive, then uploads it or vectorizes it, uploads the vectors into VectorDB, and then uses that to do RAG, a resource the resource augmented generation. This has been an interesting journey. It all works, but you can very clearly see that the technology is very young, and some use cases which seem super obvious if you're working on your thing don't seem to have passed by anyone's radar yet. So to give an example, in LangChain there's a Google Drive loader which should allow you to load documents from Google Drive, except it requires a credentials file on disk that has the credentials in it for that particular drive you want to access. Well, 17 different kinds of bad best practices. Yeah, there's someone opened an issue for it, but it hasn't had any action yet. And these are relatively simple things that you want to be able to pass in an already existing Google credentials object, and somehow this is not yet supported. So I thought, okay, then let me contribute that change. It's not a crazy amount of code. So I follow the instructions on how to set up LangChain to do contributions, and they fail because something dependencies, Python 3.12 fail dependency chain misery, which led to a bunch of wasted time. And the advice was to downgrade Python to a previous version, at which point my desire to contribute this piece of code became less and less quite rapidly. So that was my my current struggle this week. Yeah, and the other thing is that the documentation itself. If you go to the documentation of LangChain itself and of Pinecone itself, it's fine. But if you search for stuff out there, there are 20 different ways, of which 17 are deprecated, and the other 2 are not working anymore. So you have to really fiddle around more than you'd think to get things to work. But I do think that this LangChain stuff is quite interesting. I'm a little worried because it seems to be what started as a cool technology framework is now turning into a company that needs to make money off of it. So they're trying to get you to
normal.
Yeah, well, is it normal? Is it how it should be? It might be normal. It's not how it should be.
It's very much like the answer that we looked at as well. Eventually they'll get funded, or they already are funded, and then they have to figure out ways to make big bang.
Yeah, so I'm a little worried about. I'm not worried about how this works today or next week or next month, but I don't know that you want to put your full dependency on a framework that you don't know how the ownership is going to be affecting the direction of the framework. So I think there's space for another framework that doesn't have this challenge.
Yeah, so I think, to be really fair, there's nothing really open. This is actually what we started off by much earlier. There's nothing really open today when it comes to AI stuff. A lot of it is funded, semi-open. We don't know how much of it will be pressured for them to actually like release as open, etc. So it's kind of weird.
Yeah. Yes, good stuff. Do you have any other topics or stuff you want to talk about?
Today, I think I'm actually good. I think we actually did like what about 5 minutes longer than we did last week.
Yeah, it's nice.
But
so
we're slowly extending. We didn't get many questions today, though.
No. Our question taker from last week was not here. I'll ping him and tell him that you come back with questions.
Okay.
No, let's leave it here, and we will be back next week, and then see what interesting stuff we have to talk about then.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Have a good rest of the week and see you later.
See you. Bye, everybody.